Hello and welcome to the debrief of West Ham United 1, Nottingham Forest 2. This is a show where you're kind of in charge, not complete charge. There's no one coming in the room and taking over the keyboard. So I'm still the controller. But this is where the Hammer Chat subscribers have their say in the live chat. So you're watching us live, 6 p.m. on Monday. Thank you very much for joining me. Get your thoughts into the live chat. We'll get them up on the screen and see what you're all saying. You're watching this a little bit later on, Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, or even Thursday. Get involved in the comments below. Right, before we get into the game, because I don't think there'll be many people wanting to talk about the match itself, but the news this afternoon is that West Ham have offered Michail Antonio a new contract. Now, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, West Ham released a statement confirming that Sufal, Fabianski, Ings and Cranswell were going, but there was two people missing. One was Kurt Zouma. We've had a clarification on that, which is he's going. He just wasn't part of the departing entourage at the London Stadium yesterday. But there was one other player, and that was Michail Antonio. So sometimes it's what people don't say rather than what they do say. Well, now we know he's been given a new contract. Now, Antonio has not signed it as yet. And apparently, and I use that word because I'm unsure how much I believe it, but apparently he's got offers from other clubs. Now, I should add the context here. The reports are suggesting it's a short-term contract. It's on a lower wage than what he's currently on. And ex-West Ham employee is suggesting it's heavily incentive-based on appearances in goals. Because ultimately, the reality is no one knows how much Antonio will recover. If again, he's determined. I've heard him speaking a lot and seen a lot of the things he said, and I applaud his attitude and his determination to get back on the football pitch. But ultimately, whether or not it happens remains to be seen. I can see the plus sides and the negative sides on this one. If it was the club, I think personally, my ideal here would have been to offer Antonio a role at the club in a non-playing capacity. What I was hoping would happen was we'd offer Michail Antonio a contract, a role. I don't know what it is because I don't know him. Those at the club do. They will know where his skill sets would be best used within the club, whether that's working with players in the academy, maybe it's in a non-coaching staff role. Would he be good on the player care side of things? I don't know, but that's for the club to decide. But I was hoping he would have a new career with us and it wouldn't be as a player. That was what I was hoping for, because before the accident, if we had the conversation and it was, do you want to give Michail Antonio a new contract? My answer would be no. I don't want to give him a new deal. I'd like to see him leave at the end of the season. Incredible servant, unbelievable player at times for us, but now's the time to go. But he obviously had that accident and he's done really well. Now, I have this is where I'm going to come across as a bit harsh, maybe. I don't have loads of sympathy for what Antonio done. It was a horrible accident, but I do think it was a self-inflicted accident. And I'm maybe getting a bit personal on this one because I know I lost a friend of mine who was involved in a car accident through no fault of his own. He was in the passenger seat and somebody crashed into the car that he was in. He passed away, and the driver of the other car that caused the accident was arrested and went to jail for drink driving. So because of that, I have hatred for irresponsible driving. It's personal. So because of what Antonio done, it inflicted that in me. So I appreciate I'm not looking at it emotionless, because it's not emotionless for me. So I would have released him at the end of the season, regardless of that. But with that accident, I'm pleased he's alive. I'm pleased he's getting healthy. Of course I am. But does it make me want to give him a new contract at West Ham as a player? No. But in terms of keeping him around the club and looking after him, I'm happy to do that. Anyway, the news is West Ham have offered him a new contract. Right, let's take a look at the live chat and see what you're saying. Because I'm going back to it, there will be comments that don't talk about Antonio. Then we'll get into the Antonio section from the live chat. Chris saying Fabianski's not happy at Potter for the way the last home game preparations and actual day. He leaves, unfortunately, with a bad taste. For those that haven't seen it, Fabianski spoke to Polish media and basically said what Chris said, which was, I was hoping to get on the pitch and play some minutes to say goodbye, but it's not, I didn't get what I wanted. And he seemed a bit upset, to be honest, which is, I think, understandable. Connor is scared that all the stars are aligning and we're going to have Robert Sanchez. Yeah, I'm telling you, I've been warning you about this, Connor, for a month since Potter come in. So we're going to get, I don't think we've been linked to him yet, but we're going to, because Chelsea will sign a new goalkeeper. He'll become available. Potter's ex-Brighton goalkeeper. Just wait till those rumours come out, and then I'm going to start hiding behind my chair. Coming soon on Hammers Chat, Gio doing a transfer rumour show behind this seat when I'm discussing Robert Sanchez. Avid saying new deal for Antonio, and Cummings was at the game. Meaning I'm sure he's our new striker next season, maybe Fulkrug, not Cummings. That won't be our attacking options, by the way, Avid. I'm very confident. Cummings was at the game, for those who haven't seen it. The Celtic striker who is out of contract at the end of this season. He was at the London Stadium, so I think it's fair to assume he will become a West Ham player. But I'll be surprised if we see him in the first team next season. I think he'll be a player for the under-21s. I'll be surprised if I see Antonio in the first team at West Ham next season, to be honest with you. Fulkrug, yes, but even if Antonio sticks around, like I said, how do we know? How can we be confident he's going to make it as a Premier League footballer again? This is a high bar. He'll do incredibly well to get on a football pitch again. So we'll wait and see. Do we see the keeper coaches off Javi Valero? Probably about time for a change. He's been here for a decade, and our keepers have not been that good in that time. I don't know. I think Fabianski has been. I appreciate what you're saying, though. But yeah, I've seen he's possibly leaving. It's he's a bit of like a meme, isn't he, among West Ham? It's like Andy Irving. Beneath the headphones, saying it's sad to see people in chat are disappointed in this regarding Michail Antonio. The man has given a lot to the club. Matt saying, when you say short terms, that means 6 months of the full season. That's what's in the report, Matt. If I said anything else, I'd be incorrectly reporting the report. And this is a fan channel, and I think a lot of people forget that sometimes. People say, you've not told us anything we don't know. I'm not trying to. This is not a news channel. If you want news, do not come to Hammers Chat. I discussed yesterday's news. My chair's going down. There's a sign to get on the dial. Let me just adjust my camera. Luckily, Gonzo also needs gas in his chair, so it's not. I know it's not just me. Paid a fat so-and-so's. Anyway, where was I? What was I speaking about? Oh, yeah, the deal. Yeah, this is a fan channel. I discussed yesterday's news. I am proudly an NITK. Beefy saying, not what I would have done regarding Antonio, but while losing so many key players, I guess positive is we're not losing everyone who knows the place inside out. Kevin says it's a joke of a decision. This isn't great. He hasn't played since December. James saying the wording in the article implied it was a deal long enough for him to find somewhere else. But what's the thing is, though, right? How it works is you don't have to give him a new deal to do that. It can just go on to like a monthly rolling contract if both parties agreed to it. So you don't necessarily need to agree a new deal per se. And how long is that contract going to be? Because you don't know when he's going to be fit enough. But also the article, I think, is very contradictory because I agree, James, it implied it's a contract until he gets another contract. But in the same article, it says Antonio's got offers on the table elsewhere. So we don't need to offer him that short-term deal then, do we? Because you can just take one of the ones that's already there. So I think it will be, as Peace meant, maybe like a handful of months or something like that. But we'll wait and see. George called it a couple of weeks ago. Everyone thought I was mad. I didn't think you were mad. Red saying, to be honest, we suffer greatly without Antonio up top, especially running the channel. However, he's likely to break down recovering from this injury. It's going to take ages to get back up to speed. Brian saying, do we think James Ward, inside joke there, will be one of our starting midfielders next season? I do. I fear he will be. He hopes not. We need new faces in midfield. Chippy wants to be wrong about Potter, but I don't see any evidence to alter my negative assessment. Mark saying, in regards to beneath the headphones, I think no one's disputing what he's given to this club, but he's 35, doesn't score, and has one leg. See, that's the thing. That's the thing for me. Carpet saying I clickbaited with the title. The title literally said we've offered Antonio a new contract, which we have. There's no clickbait here. There's zero clickbait. It's accurate. Ryan saying big risk. There's no guarantees Antonio will get back to full fitness. I think, like you said, offer him a role within the club. Robert's asking if we know about Ben Roberts. We'll deal with that in a different video because I know a bit about him. Not loads, but a bit. It's not an unfamiliar name. James saying, do you think the same thing happens with Souček as with Wan-Bissaka? When Wan-Bissaka does something amazing going forward, some say he's amazing at attacking. When Souček scores, some people ignore the midfield issues. Yeah, I've got a confession. Where are we? 10 minutes in. Okay, I'll do my confession here in regards to Wan-Bissaka in just a second. Let me just mark this comment so I know where I am. Let me mark it so I can take it down because it's big. But before I do that, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. It's free. And also drop a like on the video as well by clicking thumbs up. If 300 of you are watching now, if all 300 of you could like the video, that would be much appreciated. I would appreciate that. In regards to Wan-Bissaka, I voted Jared Bowen Ham of the Year. I didn't vote Wan-Bissaka. I think Bowen has been... The guy's got like a ridiculous amount of goals and assists considering how crap we've been. And we're not seeing the best of Bowen. But I think without him, we'd have got relegated this season. I think Wan-Bissaka's had a good season. I think Souček's had a good season. It's certainly my top 3 for Ham of the Year. But I voted for Bowen. So I think there is an element of maybe ignoring Wan-Bissaka's weaknesses. But I do think the positives far outweigh the weaknesses, just to be clear here. His positioning can be poor, but I do think that's been covered up by... When you change formation, there's always players that benefit and there's players that suffer because of it. Just like when a new manager comes in, players will benefit and players will suffer. And I think going to 3 at the back, I think Wan-Bissaka has really benefited from that because of that lack of, not defensive responsibility, he doesn't shirk that, but just lack of needing to be in the right place at the right time defensively. Whereas under Lopetegui, I feel like he was often not in the correct place as to where he should be. But he's had a really good season. Don't get me wrong. Before someone says, why are you hating on Wan-Bissaka? He's had a really good season. I just voted for Jared Bowen. Anyway, right, let's get back to the live chat. And that's the wrong one. That's the one I'm meaning to get to. Kaido saying he was outspoken against Scamacca. Kind of helped him want to stay. Antonio, I apologies. I've misunderstood you here. Hammers, MJ Wood said, give him a role in the gym as a trainer, rehab, mentor, maybe in social media and hospitality, not a playing contract for him. Yeah, I agree with that. I think there would have been a role within the club, and I think there should have been a role within the club for him. But well, wait, listen, he might come and surprise us and get back on the pitch and offer us something next season. But we've been quite ruthless with Creswell and Soufal. I think football-wise, I think there was far more argument to give Alan Creswell a new deal than Michail Antonio a new deal. I think Creswell's showing us week in, week out now, he can still do it at this level. It's obviously difficult for Antonio at the minute, but I think there was more merit in giving Creswell a new deal based on what we're seeing on that green rectangle every weekend. Ryan saying it's a big risk. There's no guarantee he'll be the same player again. Should have been offered a role within the club. Creswell should have been offered a new deal. There you go. I hadn't even seen that one. Ralph, we're not giving him a new deal, but he just wanted to remind everyone he's done with Graham Potter. Ionic saying we should see if he can play first. But like I said, ex-West Ham employee did say it was very incentive-based. So it'll be a low basic wage plus appearance money and goal scoring money. And Fire saying absolutely not. This is ludicrous. Keeping a 35-year-old for our rebuild. Some ambition that is. Connor would have preferred to keep Creswell over until okay. Maybe when I said it out loud, I thought it was going to come across as me being a little bit mad, but maybe not. Audi says he's quietly assured we will continue to improve next season and that Potter knows Todd would rather sign Soufal than Antonio for another season. Kaiser saying, love Antonio, but he's not going to be the player he was, sadly. Fortune 61 saying, why are people focusing on what Antonio has done in the past rather than what he offers go forward? I'm not sure. I think I disagree with your interpretation of the chat there, Fortune. There will be some people, certainly, but I do think majority are focusing on what you're suggesting they should focusing on. And Sanders would keep on Souček over Antonio, not saying something. Mark saying, how did Irving get in the Scotland squad? I don't know, but do you know something worse? You know who is in the Scotland squad? Bloody Nathan Patterson as well. Now, I liked him when he went to Everton. I would have taken it at West Ham, but I don't know. You get me sidetracked here. Steve Clark picking players on reputation and names and which club they're at rather than the actual player. Peach is a Forest fan. He loves Antonio, but should have retired a long time ago. MJ thinks Fabianski and Ariel are great stoppers, but I'm disappointed they haven't improved on distribution and crosses. Perhaps we do need a new goalkeeping coach. That is very fair. Smidge is not looking forward to next season. Grouch says if we're keeping Ward-Prowse and Souček, they'd better not be on the pitch at the same time. David, this is a very valid point that I forgot about. Pre-injury, Michail Antonio said he could only last an hour in the game, which, correct, true, he did say that. Kevin saying, Antonio, new deal, not for him. How on earth is this looking forward? The man has had his day. Is this really what we're calling a rebuild? Actually, I don't think anyone's calling it a rebuild, though, Kevin. Potter is very reluctant to even suggest it's a rebuild. He's doing the opposite. He's trying to say it's not. That's not what we need. It's the fans that are saying we think we need one, but the club are saying we don't need one. Grouch, he agrees. Bowen has carried this team, and he also voted for him in Hammer of the Year. Sean saying, I honestly believe the best case scenario for Antonio would be going to another London club like Charlton or Leyton Orient, if not Fulham. Red saying Wan-Bissaka is an incredible defender and carries the ball well. His crossing needs work, but he's been brilliant all season. Randy saying, right now, as we've seen Potter going through his extra pre-season, do you think, even if we see the players he gets, that's a big if, it will be the same as before? Or do you think he'll get Christmas? I think they'll give him as long as they can. I do feel like they're determined for giving Potter what he needs to succeed, and one of that will be money in the window. The other one will be time next season. So I think he'll be here at Christmas unless it's terribly bad. It hinges on the transfer window for me, really. It's not easy, but I'm trying to sort of wait and see what happens in the transfer window. I'm not confident. I'm not very hopeful, but make a couple of early good, strong signings and I'll get a bit, I don't know, looking forward to it, I guess. James saying Wan-Bissaka has been very good. More at those who say he's excellent attacking and silent when he does nothing in the game. Like when Souček scores, some will say, see, that's why he should play. Rob saying the one player I didn't want to see get a new deal is Antonio. Deleted is saying, why are we offering him a new deal? Smidge is saying maybe move Wan-Bissaka from centre-back to centre-mid. I don't think he's either, personally. Anthony saying it suggested that Creswell wanted to leave rather than not being offered a new deal. Fair enough. I haven't come across that article, Anthony, but it'd be interesting if it was Creswell's decision rather than the club's. Roger saying we'd rather keep Sufal, Creswell and Fabianski than Antonio. I think he was done before the accident. Red 5 is saying Potts needs a big run in the team next season, and he's still recovering from the batting ball last night. Very messy, drank from 8:30 in the morning until midnight. I feel sick reading that. Been a while since I had those days at West Ham, I'll tell you that. But COVID killed it for my lot. But I remember the days of going to Golden Grove at 8 in the morning, getting a breakfast, and then there's a guy we used to go with called Tom who'd have the Jaeger bombs on the table by 10 a.m. Now, for the 12:30 game, not the end of the world, 3 p.m., but there was sometimes it was a 5:30 kickoff. I don't know. Some of our reviews from the boats in the early season at London Stadium was a state. I remember a few times I've stood there with Gonzo with the mic And I'm thinking, I can't remember who scored the second goal. I know we scored. I know it was 2-0. And I'm like, so Gonzo, what do you make of the second goal? Because I couldn't even say, what do you make of such and such's goal? I couldn't remember it. Anyway, you have my sympathy, might be pushing it. You have my thoughts are with you, Red. Russ saying a performance-related short-term deal on reduced term sounds okay. I don't think he's got much left in the tank, but he may be good for a few goals off the bench. I mean, if he does somehow come back and makes it at the Premier League level, then he's going to be, that will be absolutely incredible as an achievement. Stephen saying Sifal had a great game yesterday. It's a shame we're letting him go. We've got great value for 5 million. He reminds me of Repka, and his son just signed on. He did have a good game, but I do think he's had a few poor games this season. I think he's struggled against fast wingers, but yesterday he was definitely up for it, sleeves rolled up, and I was pleased he was able to sort of, while we got beat, that he had a good performance to head on out with. Charles is saying Fabianski's been a fantastic servant. Martial saying, what areas do we need to improve on? Who would you like? I'm going to keep that, if you don't mind, for like summer series. Need something to talk about between the Ipswich game and whoever we play in the first game of the season, other than just actual transfers. Randy saying, by the way, that story about Vlasic certainly is a concern. I'll deal with that tomorrow or something. Thank you for the heads up, Randy. I hadn't seen it until the comment earlier on, and I had a Google before I went live, and I was reading what you were referring to. So have a look. Lawson saying, people keep saying, wait until he gets his players. Lopetegui wasn't given that chance, and he got sat with a better record than Graham Potter. Avid saying, what are the odds we see wholesale changes at the weekend? Bench Kilman and Durex. Right, okay. I shared that Durex nickname in confidence, and you're bringing it to the live chat. There's people watching right now wondering who we're referring to, although someone gave it away earlier, and why we're referring to it. I feel a bit stitched up. But he said we'd like to see start Fulkrug and Guilherme, especially after the cameos. I actually, going back to the game, I actually enjoyed how we played after going 2-0 down, because the subs came on, we conceded a goal immediately. And then I thought Solar, I thought Paqueta had good games. I thought Fulkrug made mistakes. He wasn't perfect, but he was involved. Bourne was back out in his best position. Guilherme came on, thought he looked bright. I thought we played all right in that period. And I think that's why I was really wound up by full time, because up until those subs, I was numb watching the game. I was in motion. I wasn't that bothered. We went 1-0 down. I was just like, whatever. Half time, 1-0, whatever. 2-0, whatever. But then we started playing good football. And as we know, we got the goals, fantastic goal. By full time, I found myself thinking, well, why didn't we have this team out at the start and play like that from the start? I would have enjoyed that. And I appreciate you can't do it for 90 minutes, but if you could do it for an hour instead of half an hour, that would be much appreciated. And I think that's what annoyed me, really, because I also I think we had to do two things. You had two choices. Either A, he goes full sentimental, plays Fabianski, plays Sufal, plays Craswell, gets them off, standing ovation and all that, or he takes it really serious and gets the win. And I understand why he does the latter. He's trying to get up the league, prize money, etc. Pride as a manager. I completely understand why he went, in his eyes, full strength. But I think if you're going to do that, you got to go get it. If you've decided you're going to bin off Fabianski, you're not going to give Fabianski a goodbye, I think it puts a bit of pressure on you to get something out of the game. And I think he failed to do that as well. And I think that's what frustrated me, that the last 20, 30 minutes, 40 by the time the full-time whistle went, I enjoyed it, except that 4-minute walk from the referee to go book a coach on the touchline. That pissed me off. Anyway, it's not a secret, Avid. I was just winding you up. It's not a secret. You crack on. Jonathan saying, getting taxed up the wazoo, family dynamics and juggling multiple jobs to make ends meet, and yet can't get any enjoyment from West Ham either. Giving up on the club with his mum's death on top. Well, Jonathan, bless you. I hope you're okay. Clearly not. Understandably not. If you need anything, email us, please. The email address is in the description of this video. If you do need anything, get in touch with us, please. Red saying, what I don't understand is surely a manager's job is getting the best out of what he's got. I would love to go to work and tell head office, sorry, I need to get rid of all the staff to do my job. Maybe Antonio's done that. The difference is that'd be like you going in to your job and you saying to your employers, I need to get rid of all the staff, and they say, okay, but you can only do it in July. I don't know, bad example maybe. I don't know. I think you get what I'm trying to say, I think. Brian says Antonio doesn't deserve a new deal. One, he's too slow and old for his wages. There are better options than him. Two, he does not put a shift in. Well, I'm going to disagree about number two. I've made my feelings on the contract offer to Antonio very clear in this video. But I think to say he doesn't put a shift in, I feel is very, very harsh. I think I have some complaints about Antonio game to game. But one thing I never have complaints about is his work rate. I think he's always given everything in every game he's played for West Ham. The same with Souček, the same with Soufal, the same with James Ward-Prowse. I might not think they're good enough. They might frustrate me and annoy me for various different reasons. But commitment and work rate isn't really something I've ever been concerned about. And Antonio's one of those players. So, yes, number one, yeah. Number two, I disagree personally, Brian. Usual saying he hopes he retires and becomes a driving instructor. CB saying much like Antonio for us in the past, he thinks he's finished. Troll's saying Potter fluffed the starting lineup again, Lopetegui style. I completely agree. Drew saying except the relegated teams, it seems like every team in the league has something to be hopeful about going forward, except for us. Why does it always feel like we're drifting backwards? It depends, really. I think if Man U win on Wednesday, I don't think Spurs will feel like they've got something to look forward to. I guess if they sack Postecoglou, they may then look forward to the next manager if they're happy with that appointment. Trying to think of the clubs in and around us in the league. Wolves, Everton have got the stadium. They're doing all right under Moyes. Wolves are doing fine under Pereira. Who's just above them in the league? Crystal Palace. Yeah, won the FA Cup, got Europa League next season. Who's 11th? I don't think it's not. Is it still Fulham? Don't know. I think they're a bit boring, aren't they? But they're not worried about relegation. Toby said, offering anyone over the age of 30 a new deal is not what he wants to hear right now. We've got the oldest, slowest squad in the league. We need a change. Soufal was brilliant, but it was one game. Grouch Potter went with the don't change a winning team philosophy, which worries him immensely. Nottingham Forest and Man United are completely different animals and need different approaches. Potter seems very inflexible, which is weirdly not really something I would describe him as. Being stubborn and inflexible is not something I've ever associated with Potter pre-West Ham. That's why I was maybe a little bit surprised, actually, that he went with the exact same team. And in my full time, a little bit frustrated he went with the exact same team. Lawson saying, a good coach should improve his players, but Potter doesn't seem to have the capability to do that. Usual suspect saying Antonio can always play Long John Silver in pantomime at Christmas. Banza saying the ref wound the fans up. That got the players fired up. Should have been like this from the start of the game, not 10 minutes from the end of the game. Charles saying it's disrespectful. Antonio work suffers from too high muscle mass, resulting in stamina issues and running out of gas around the hour mark. Spurham saying, how many games do we give Graham Potter? We shall wait until we'll deal with that in the summer. He doesn't start on like neutral ground for me. We get a new manager, they go on neutral. He doesn't start in that. He starts very much sort of minus 1 or 2 geo points before the ball's even kicked. And for those asking regarding, Essex Bricks is asking about Scars, and CB's asking, do we know why Scars? I've got nothing. Honestly, I've heard nothing. I've seen nothing. It's just been completely ignored. I think I'm just going to try and ignore it. And I'm just going to assume and give Potter the benefit of the doubt in regards to it, that there's nothing in it, and that come pre-season he's going to get a good crack under Potter and he'll be involved in the first team next season, and we'll go from there. But it is a bit weird that he's not been on the bench, to go from starting to being rotated with Emerson, and even when he didn't start, he was like the first sub, to just completely out the squad altogether. There wasn't even like on the bench and don't come on. That we missed that period. He went from coming off the bench to not even being in the squad. And like I said, when you look at the squad yesterday, Ferguson's on the bench. Well, you don't need him there when you've got Fulkrug there. Maybe if Fulkrug started to have Ferguson on there, but he didn't. So there was no requirement for Ferguson to be on the bench personally. But anyway, right, half an hour. I'm going to shut up and disappear and say thank you very much to you all for joining me. It's very kind of you. If you're watching this later on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, please get involved in the comment section. Ironix is saying doesn't get disrespect. He's done so much. This I will end it up on this because this is a little bit of the Souček thing. It's, you know, there's always that feel like a bit of a Souček myth, which is someone always I see more people say too many people hate Souček, blah blah blah, but I rarely to never see anyone say anything bad about Souček in regards to like him as a person. There's no hatred. They just don't think he's good enough or don't think he's good at X, Y, or Z. And the same with Antonio. I wouldn't call people discussing Antonio, I wouldn't say it's disrespect to say that you think he's too old, he's not good enough, or he shouldn't get a new contract. I think it's very possible, and I think most people that do want Antonio to not get a new deal, and I include myself in this, love Antonio, appreciate what he's done, just think it's the right time for him to go. I don't think it's disrespectful to suggest that you have to want Antonio to get a new deal to respect him. I think you can do both, personally. And I don't want to. I dislike the whole Souček hatred thing because I think it's false. I don't think it's a fair reflection of people's opinions, and I don't want the Antonio thing to be like that as well. That if you think Antonio should not get a new contract, it means you don't respect what he's done to West Ham. I think it's very, very possible that you can do both. Now, admittedly, as Charles is saying, it's a language. Admittedly, there are some people that do go too far. Of course, there is. There's two people that go too far with everything. I mean, to throw a personal experience out there, my little one, as most people will know by now, because it's not a secret, my little one was born in December and she went into intensive care, and she was in intensive care for 2 weeks before coming home at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And she only got home that day because it was Christmas Eve. If it was like the 20th of December, I think she'd have been in hospital for another couple of days. Anyway, not in January, so not long after we got home, but it's still a bit new, and you know, there's still things going on with Grace. There was someone leaving comments on every video I did asking when Grace's funeral was, asking if there's a GoFundMe set up because he or she would like to contribute to Grace's funeral costs and stuff like that. There's always people that go too far, but I just choose to ignore those and focus on what I call the 95%. Because when you make a chair, for example, I learned this at school, when you if you were to make a wooden chair, you do it for 95% of the country. So whoever's 6'8" ain't going to fit on it. They're not going to fit on that seat. Whoever's 4 foot, they're not going to get on the seat. It's the 95% of the population, though, and that's how I look at things. I think 95% of people can appreciate Antonio, give him a new deal, don't give him a new deal. 95% of people can judge Souček as a player, but there's no hatred. It's just an honest evaluation. Just like 95% of people tune into these videos and not think, well, make a comment about his daughter possibly being dead. Well, I think it's greater than 95%. You get my point, though, I hope. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I'm going to disappear. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate you all. Well, I appreciate 95% of you. Drop a like on the video, subscribe new around here, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow.